So on the back of your project sheet, there is this checklist here. Okay. Now, I believe everyone has done their design. Okay, so that is checked off. And we used a copy of the design to plot out where the LEDs will go. Okay, we did that. It's a little bit cut off. And most of you, I think, have drilled all of your holes for your LEDs. Okay. So today I'm going to show you how to do steps 4 and 5. Okay, so steps 4 and 5. So solder the wires to the legs of the LEDs. Okay. And a reminder, black is on the short side. And then to hot glue the LEDs in place. Okay. So I have here two LEDs. Okay. I have this yellow one. Okay. And this one that looks clear, this is actually a blue LED. So when it lights up, it'll turn blue. Okay. So I mentioned that the black wire has to go on the short side. So on each of these LEDs, you can see that there's one side that's longer, one side that's shorter. Okay. So the black wires are always going to go on that short side, no matter what color LED it is. Okay. So I'll take a couple of black wires. And I'm going to strip both ends. Okay. Now the black wires are 26 gauge, so I'm going to use the 26 gauge groove. And I'm going to strip off about that much. Remember, pull straight, don't pull at an angle. There's one. And as you get used to stripping the wires, it'll come easier. The first few are always a little bit tricky, I think. All right, so I have my wires. So I need to twist these around the short legs of these LEDs. Okay, so here with my blue LED, okay, this leg right here is the short leg. So I'm going to bend that out a little bit so they're not so close. All right, now here's the tricky part for a lot of people. I want to wrap this around this leg. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it against the leg with my finger like that. So just like that. And then I'm going to spin this around the leg. Okay. So you can see the wires wrapped around the leg right there. And I'll do the same thing for this yellow LED. Okay, and this is the short side, so I'm going to bend that out. And again, I'm going to hold it against the leg and then spin it around. Okay. We only need to wrap it around where the wire is bare. We don't need to wrap around where the plastic still is. And if you have a long piece of wire that's coming out here, okay, you can just bend it away just to make sure that there's no wires touching both legs at the same time. That would be a short circuit. All right, so we have our black wires on. Now we need to add our colored wires on. So for the blue LED, there's going to be a blue wire on the long side. So this is also 26 gauge, so I'm going to strip that. Okay. And I'm going to wrap this the same way I did around here. Okay, so hold, spin. Okay. So we want to make sure that no wire is touching both legs. So if there is a wire that's coming out, just bend it back away. Okay, so this one's ready to solder. Okay, so I'm just going to finish up this yellow one, and then I'm going to go over to solder. I would recommend doing 3 or 4 of them before you go over and solder. That way you're not constantly going back and forth, back and forth. So this yellow LED is going to need a yellow wire. Now the yellow wires are a lot thinner. Okay? The yellow and green are both 30 gauge wire. Okay? So when we strip them, we're going to have to use the 30 gauge groove, which is the smallest one all the way at the end. More out. Okay. other side. Okay, and if it strips a little bit, okay, so you can always strip off a little bit more. All right, and I'm going to wrap this around this long leg. So hold it against, and then just wrapping around. Okay, and bend away any wires. All right, so now we're ready to go solder. Okay, so remember, when you go to solder, have your glasses on, your mask on, and your cotton glove and your plastic glove on your non-dominant hand. So since I'm right-handed, I'm going to put my gloves on my left hand. Okay, so I'm over here at a soldering station. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to have to do is I'm going to turn it on. So remember the blue ones, the switch is on the side. Okay, and I'm going to set it to 375 or at least close. If you're within 5 degrees, that's fine. You don't have to get it perfectly exact. All right, so it's counting up, and when that LED starts blinking, lets me know that it's all heated up, ready to go. So this usually takes about a minute. Okay. And you can see both my LEDs are here, my yellow and my blue. Okay. You might be wondering, well, why do we have to put different color wires on the different sides? Well, it makes it a lot easier later on when we have to go connect wires together. Okay, we can just connect all the blue wires together, all the black wires together, all the yellow wires together. We don't have to keep checking to see where they're each connected. All right, so the LED is blinking. Okay, so now that tip looks a little bit dirty, so nice and shiny. Okay, and if I want to test the solder, I can. Just a little bit of smoke. All right, so I'm going to do this one first. Okay. So I'm going to do one side at a time. So this blue side, I'm going to pin it down so it's not going to move. Okay, and it's going to heat up the wire, and after a few seconds, the wire should be hot enough to melt the solder, like so. Okay, now the other side. So I'll pin that side down. Okay. Yellow one in. So I'll pin this side down. You see, not using a whole lot of solder. Okay. Okay. And again, clean it off so it's nice and shiny, and back in the stand. Okay. Now, since I'm done soldering, I can turn it off. Okay. And now I have to actually install these into my sign. Okay. So let's go over and show you that. Okay, so we have our sign here. Okay. I've already installed one side, so that's what the sides will look like. Okay, and this is the back of the board. Okay. And if it's messy like this, don't worry, you won't see the back when it's all finished. Okay, so you want to make sure, especially if you're doing more than one color, that you put the LEDs in the right spots. Okay, if you're doing all the same color, it doesn't really matter. You know, they're all going to be the same. But if you're doing more than one color, make sure you put them in the right spots. Okay, now these LEDs will fit in the hole, but they won't go all the way through. Okay, there's a little lip on them, so they will not slip all the way through. So we want to put some hot glue on these. Okay. So the hot glue is going to go on the rim right around here. Okay. Okay, so I have my hot glue gun here. Okay, so right, it is warm enough. So, like I said, I'm going to put the hot glue right around the base of this. I'm not going to use a whole lot. Now, before it cools down, I'm going to push it in. Okay. So that hot glue will take a minute or two to cure. So we'll do the same thing for this blue one. Right around the base here. Okay. And gonna put that one over here. Okay. Now, once these are dry, you can see they stick out a tiny bit from the sign, but not a lot. Okay. So those are the steps you have to do for all of your LEDs. Okay. So if you're doing multiple colors, what I usually do is I do all of the one color first, then I move on to the second color, and then so on if I have more. That way I'm just using the same two colored wires. So you'll have a cup just like this. You'll always have black wire, and you'll probably have at least two different colors in your cup. Okay. And that's it.